The proximity alarms at the Quantum Research Center in Nevada weren't supposed to go off. Not ever. The facility was built 2 miles underground specifically to avoid any interference with their sensitive equipment. Yet on a quiet Thursday morning, every sensor in Dr. Sarah Chen's lab started screaming. "What the hell?" Sarah muttered, her dark eyes fixed on readings that shouldn't be possible. The quantum field harmonics were spiking in patterns she'd never seen before. She'd spent the last 5 years studying quantum entanglement, trying to find ways to stabilize quantum states long enough to be useful. But this was something else entirely. The waves of energy pulsing through her instruments weren't random. They had structure, intentionality. It was as if something massive had just passed through Earth's quantum field, leaving ripples in its wake. Sarah's fingers flew across her haptic interface, trying to isolate the signal. Behind her, Dr. James Martinez burst into the lab, his usually immaculate lab coat askew. "Sarah, are you seeing this?" "Seeing it. I'm recording it," she replied without looking up. "James, these patterns, they're not natural. They're too ordered." James leaned over her shoulder, his breath catching as he watched the data stream across her holographic display. "It's like someone's writing in quantum space." "Not writing," Sarah corrected, her voice barely a whisper. "Searching." Before James could respond, the facility's director, Dr. Elizabeth Wong, entered the lab. Her typically stoic face showed clear concern. "Dr. Chen, Dr. Martinez, we need you in the main conference room. Now." The conference room was already packed with the facility's top researchers when they arrived. On the massive view screen at the front of the room, a live feed from NASA's Quantum Telescope Array showed something that made Sarah's heart skip a beat. Massive objects were decelerating at the edge of the solar system, their presence visible only through the quantum distortions they created in space-time. "Ladies and gentlemen," Director Wong began, her voice steady despite the circumstances, "what you're seeing is real. 6 hours ago, our deep space monitors detected these objects entering the solar system. They're using some form of quantum propulsion we've never seen before, and they're heading straight for Earth." Sarah barely heard the gasps and murmurs around her. Her mind was racing, connecting dots that had eluded her for years. Her recent experiments with quantum locking, a technique she'd developed to freeze quantum states in place, suddenly seemed far more significant. "Director," Sarah spoke up, her voice cutting through the chaos of worried voices, "I need to show you something." In her lab, Sarah pulled up the results of her latest experiments. 3 months ago, we discovered a way to not just observe quantum states, but to lock them in place. We can create fields that trap and redirect quantum energy. She demonstrated with a simple experiment, creating a quantum-locked bubble that contained and redirected a beam of energy. The implications were mostly theoretical. Until now. Director Wong's eyes narrowed as she watched the demonstration. "Are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting, Dr. Chen?" "If these objects are using quantum propulsion," Sarah explained, "then theoretically, we could create quantum-locked fields large enough to affect them. We could trap them, redirect them, maybe even disable their drives completely." The director was silent for a long moment, studying the data scrolling across Sarah's screens. Finally, she pulled out her phone and dialed a number she clearly knew by heart. "General Richards, this is Elizabeth Wong. We need to implement Protocol Omega." Yes, I understand the implications. We have someone, actually. And sir, you're going to want to see this yourself." Within hours, the Quantum Research Center transformed from a purely scientific installation into something else entirely. Military personnel poured in, bringing with them equipment and resources Sarah had only dreamed of accessing. The race to develop Earth's first quantum defense system had begun. As Sarah watched her lab fill with new equipment and personnel, she couldn't shake the feeling that her discovery wasn't just going to change the course of human history. It might be the only thing standing between humanity and whatever was heading their way. James appeared at her side, holding 2 cups of coffee. "Think we can do it?" he asked quietly, handing her one of the cups. Sarah took a sip, her eyes fixed on the quantum field visualizer showing the approaching objects. We have to. Because whatever those things are, they're looking for something. And I've got a feeling they just found it. The first thing they built wasn't a weapon. It was a containment sphere. Sarah insisted on it, despite the military's push for offensive capabilities. We need to understand what we're dealing with before we try to fight it, she explained to General Richards in the newly constructed war room beneath the Nevada desert. 3 weeks had passed since the discovery of the approaching vessels. The Quantum Research Facility had transformed into the heart of Project Atlas, humanity's crash course in advanced quantum engineering. "Show me again," Richards commanded, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic display. Sarah manipulated the controls, demonstrating how their prototype quantum-locked field contained and redirected energy. The breakthrough wasn't in creating the field, Sarah explained, but in making it adapt. Traditional quantum locks are static. Ours learn. They evolve. The more energy you throw at them, the stronger they become. Dr. Martinez stepped forward, pointing to a complex series of equations. It's like a mirror that doesn't just reflect light. It studies it, understands it, and then decides how best to handle it. The general nodded slowly. "And you think this will work against their drives?" "In theory," Sarah replied. "But we need to scale it up. Way up." That's how they ended up building Atlas in the Mojave Desert. Hidden beneath a massive camouflage dome, the ship took shape, humanity's first quantum-augmented vessel. Its hull was latticed with quantum locking arrays, each capable of generating fields that could trap and redirect massive amounts of energy. The construction site became a melting pot of human expertise. Engineers from every major space agency worked alongside quantum physicists and military specialists. They weren't just building a ship, they were inventing entirely new fields of science. Sarah spent countless hours in the testing chamber, fine-tuning the quantum arrays. Each test revealed new properties of their technology. The quantum fields didn't just lock energy in place. They could absorb it, redirect it, even amplify it under the right conditions. "It's like they're alive," she murmured one evening, watching the fields pulse and shift in response to various energy weapons. James looked up from his calculations, raising an eyebrow. "Don't let the general hear you talking like that. He's spooked enough about the whole quantum consciousness theory." Sarah smiled tiredly. The theory had emerged after they noticed the quantum fields responding differently depending on who was operating them. Some operators could generate stronger fields than others, and no one could explain why. Their visitors hadn't been idle. The alien vessels had entered the inner solar system, taking up positions near Jupiter. Their presence had triggered global panic at first, but as weeks passed without hostile action, fear gave way to wary observation. Earth's governments had managed to keep Project Atlas secret, but Sarah knew it was only a matter of time before their visitors detected their work. The quantum energies they were manipulating were too distinctive to hide completely. The breakthrough came on a Tuesday. Sarah had been experimenting with linking multiple quantum arrays together when she discovered something unexpected. The combined fields weren't just stronger. They were exponentially more efficient. "It's like a neural network," she explained to the project team. "Each array learns from the others, creating patterns that are greater than the sum of their parts." The discovery accelerated their timeline. Within days, they had reconfigured Atlas's entire quantum defense system. The ship wasn't just equipped with quantum locking technology. It was becoming a single, integrated quantum entity. As the project neared completion, Sarah couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. The alien vessels had shifted position again, moving closer to Mars. Their quantum signatures had changed too, becoming more complex, more focused. "They know," she told James one night as they watched the sunset from the observation deck. "They can sense what we're building." "Good," James replied, surprising her. "Let them know. Let them see that humanity isn't as primitive as they might think." The next morning, Their sensors detected new quantum distortions. 3 smaller vessels had detached from the main alien fleet and were heading toward Earth. General Richards called an emergency meeting. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, his voice grave, "it seems our visitors are done waiting. Atlas needs to be ready for launch in 48 hours. Sarah looked around the room at the tired but determined faces of her colleagues. They had built something unprecedented, combining human ingenuity with discoveries that defied conventional physics. Now, they would find out if it was enough. As she returned to her lab to begin final preparations, Sarah paused to study the massive form of Atlas through the observation window. The ship's quantum arrays pulsed with subtle energy, creating patterns that reminded her of neural activity in a human brain. "We're ready," she whispered, more to herself than to the ship. "Whatever you are, whatever you want, we're ready." Launch day brought clear skies and a tense atmosphere. Atlas rose from its desert cradle under the cover of a massive quantum distortion field, masking its true nature from both Earth's population and the approaching alien vessels. The ship's bridge hummed with nervous energy. Sarah sat at the quantum operations station, her fingers hovering over controls that hadn't existed 3 months ago. Captain Maya Rodriguez, chosen for both her combat experience and her unusually strong affinity for quantum field manipulation, stood at the command center. "Status report," Maya ordered, her voice steady despite the weight of humanity's fate potentially resting on their shoulders. "All quantum arrays online and synchronized," Sarah reported. "Field integrity at optimal levels." James, manning the sensor station, suddenly straightened. "Contact. 3 vessels on approach vector. Their quantum signatures are incredible." The alien ships emerged from the quantum distortion field they'd been hiding behind. Their design defied conventional physics, crystalline structures that seemed to phase in and out of normal spacetime, trailing quantum energies like luminescent silk. "They're beautiful," someone whispered. "They're hailing us," communications announced. "But not through normal channels. They're using quantum frequency modulation." Sarah's console lit up with complex patterns. "Captain, they're trying to establish quantum resonance with our fields. I think this is how they communicate." Captain Rodriguez nodded. "Can we respond?" "Yes, but..." Sarah hesitated. "Their patterns are incredibly complex. If we respond wrong, we could trigger..." She never finished the sentence. One of the alien vessels suddenly pulsed with brilliant energy, sending a quantum wave toward Atlas that would have torn a conventional ship apart. Sarah's hands flew across her console. Atlas's quantum arrays activated instantly, not just blocking the energy wave, but catching it, containing it, studying it. The ship's neural-like quantum network processed the attack in microseconds. "That was a test," Sarah announced, studying the readings. "They wanted to see how we'd respond." The alien vessels held position, their quantum signatures fluctuating in what Sarah realized was surprise. Then came another transmission, this time in recognizable radio waves. A voice filled the bridge, speaking perfect English, but with an odd musical quality. "Impossible. Your quantum technology, it cannot exist. Who gave it to you?" Captain Rodriguez stepped forward. "We developed it ourselves. I am Captain Maya Rodriguez of the Earth vessel Atlas." "We..." "Deception," the voice cut in. "No emerging species can develop true quantum consciousness technology independently. You will reveal your benefactors, or we will extract the information ourselves." The 3 alien ships began moving into an attack formation, their quantum signatures building to devastating levels. "They're charging weapons," James reported tensely. Sarah studied her readings, a sudden realization hitting her. "Captain, they're quantum fields. They're rigid, predictable. They're using quantum energy like a tool, but we're letting it flow naturally, letting it evolve." "How does that help us?" Maya asked. "Because they don't understand what we've built," Sarah replied, her fingers dancing across her console. "Atlas isn't just using quantum fields, it's learning from them. Every second we're in contact with their energy patterns, our systems are adapting, growing stronger. The alien ships launched their attack, a coordinated burst of quantum energy designed to shred Atlas's defenses. But Atlas didn't just defend. The ship's quantum arrays caught the energy, absorbed it, learned from it. Each attack made their fields stronger, more refined. Impossible, the alien voice transmitted again, this time with clear concern. Your fields, they're evolving, growing. This defies all known laws of quantum mechanics. No, Sarah transmitted back. It defies your understanding of them. Humanity didn't copy this technology. We discovered it ourselves, and we discovered it works best when you don't try to control it completely. When you let it grow, adapt, evolve. The alien vessels pulled back, their quantum signatures chaotic with what Sarah interpreted as confusion and fear. Their next transmission carried a different tone, one of reluctant respect and growing alarm. You do not understand what you have created, the voice said. Your quantum fields, they are conscious in ways we thought impossible, ways that will draw the attention of things far worse than us. Captain Rodriguez looked at Sarah, a silent question in her eyes. Sarah nodded slowly, understanding dawning on her face. We didn't just build a defensive system, she said quietly. We accidentally created something new, something alive. Atlas's quantum fields pulsed gently, as if acknowledging the truth of her words. The warning came 3 days after first contact. Atlas was maintaining a defensive position in Earth orbit when the quantum sensors detected massive distortions at the edge of the solar system. Multiple contacts, James announced, his voice tense. Much bigger than our previous visitors. Their quantum signatures are off the charts. The 3 alien ships that had confronted Atlas earlier moved to join them, their crystalline forms glinting in the sunlight. Their commander's voice came through again. The Void Hunters have arrived. Your quantum experiment has drawn their attention. They are the ancient guardians of quantum space, and they do not tolerate innovations. Sarah watched as her displays filled with incoming data. The new arrivals dwarfed anything they'd seen before. Massive vessels that seemed to bend reality around them. Their quantum signatures were overwhelmingly powerful, but also rigid, almost crystallized in their patterns. They're demanding our immediate surrender, communications reported. They want us to deactivate all quantum technology and submit to their authority. Captain Rodriguez stood from her chair. Send our response. Earth does not surrender to threats, no matter their source. The battle began in the space near Saturn's rings. The Void Hunters struck first, unleashing quantum weapons that twisted space itself. But Atlas was ready. The ship's quantum fields had been learning, growing stronger with each passing day. Every attack was absorbed, analyzed, and understood. Their patterns, Sarah called out, studying her readings. They're using quantum energy like a hammer, trying to overwhelm us with pure power. But Atlas is dancing with it. She was right. Where the Void Hunters tried to dominate quantum space with brute force, Atlas's fields flowed like water, redirecting their energy, learning from each attack. The ship's neural-like quantum network had evolved far beyond its original design. The battle moved into Saturn's rings, ice particles glinting like diamonds around them. Atlas weaved through the debris field, its quantum fields extending to use the ice crystals themselves as amplification points. The entire ring system became a quantum resonance chamber, multiplying the ship's defensive capabilities. They've never seen anything like this, James reported, excitement breaking through his professional demeanor. Their attacks are becoming less coordinated. They don't know how to handle a quantum field that adapts. The Void Hunters' massive ships pressed their attack, but each assault made Atlas stronger. The ship's quantum fields weren't just defending anymore. They were reaching out, touching the enemy vessel's own quantum systems. Where the Void Hunters' quantum technology was rigid and controlled, Atlas's was fluid and alive. Sarah gasped as she realized what was happening. Captain, Atlas isn't just defending. It's trying to communicate with their ships. It's offering to teach them. The battle reached its climax in a spectacular display of quantum energies. The Void Hunters launched their most powerful attack yet, a coordinated strike designed to tear apart the fabric of space-time itself. But Atlas caught the energy, held it, transformed it. The ship's quantum fields expanded to encompass all of Saturn's rings, creating a display of quantum resonance visible from Earth's telescopes. And then, something unprecedented happened. Atlas' quantum fields touched the Void Hunters' systems and showed them something they had never seen before: quantum technology that could grow, learn, and evolve naturally. The effect was immediate and profound. The massive alien ships froze in space, their quantum signatures fluctuating wildly as their rigid systems encountered something that defied their fundamental understanding of quantum mechanics. "They're powering down," James announced in disbelief. "All of them. Their quantum signatures are realigning." The original alien commander's voice came through again, but this time with a tone of awe. "In all our millennia of guardianship, we have never. This changes everything we thought we knew about quantum space." Sarah smiled as she watched her displays show the Void Hunters' quantum signatures shifting, becoming more fluid, more alive. "We didn't just defend ourselves," she said quietly. "We showed them a better way." In the aftermath of the battle, Saturn's rings glowed with residual quantum energy, creating an aurora that would be visible from Earth for months to come. But the true transformation was happening on a much deeper level. The Void Hunters, those ancient guardians of quantum space, had retreated to the outer solar system, not in defeat, but in contemplation. Their massive ships hung in space like dark stars, their quantum signatures slowly changing as they grappled with what Atlas had shown them. On Atlas's bridge, Sarah worked tirelessly to understand the data they'd gathered during the encounter. "It's fascinating," she told Captain Rodriguez during one of their daily briefings. "Their quantum technology is incredibly advanced, but it's also stagnant. They've been using the same patterns for thousands of years." "And we showed them something new," Maya concluded, watching the holographic display of the Void Hunter ships. "We showed them something alive," Sarah corrected. "Our quantum fields aren't just tools. They're growing, evolving, almost like a new form of life." The original alien vessels, now identified as the Meridian Scouts, had taken up a position between Atlas and the Void Hunters, acting as intermediaries. Their commander, who had introduced himself as Nexus, had become fascinated by humanity's approach to quantum mechanics. "Your species," Nexus transmitted during one of their many discussions, "sees quantum space differently than any we have encountered. Where we sought to control, you sought to understand. Where we built walls, you built bridges." The implications of Atlas's achievement were still unfolding. The ship's quantum fields had continued to evolve, developing new patterns and capabilities that even Sarah couldn't have predicted. More importantly, these patterns were beginning to influence the quantum technologies of both the Meridians and the Void Hunters. "It's like watching an ecosystem develop," James observed one evening as they tracked the subtle quantum interactions between the different ships. "Our fields are teaching theirs how to adapt, and in return, they're showing us possibilities we never imagined." The Void Hunters finally broke their silence a week after the battle. Their message was transmitted simultaneously through conventional channels in quantum space, creating a harmony that made Atlas's sensors sing. "We have watched over quantum space for eons," their elder voice resonated. "We sought to preserve its purity, to prevent its corruption. But in our rigidity, we became the very stagnation we feared. Your Atlas has shown us that quantum space is not meant to be controlled. It is meant to be nurtured, to grow, to evolve." The announcement that followed changed everything. The Void Hunters would step down as guardians. Instead, they proposed a council of species that understood quantum space in different ways, with humanity holding a permanent seat. "But we barely understand our own technology," Maya protested during the negotiation. "Atlas's quantum fields are still evolving in ways we can't predict." Exactly, Nexus replied, his crystalline ship glinting. That is precisely why you must be involved. Your uncertainty, your willingness to explore and adapt, these are the qualities quantum space itself exhibits. You understand it instinctively in ways we had forgotten. Sarah stood at Atlas's observation deck, watching Earth rotate below them. The ship's quantum fields rippled gently around her, responding to her presence in ways that still amazed her. They had set out to build a defensive system and had instead awakened something new in the universe, a way of working with quantum space that would change everything. What happens now? James asked, joining her at the window. Sarah smiled, watching as a Meridian ship practiced generating the new, more fluid quantum patterns they'd learned from Atlas. Now we learn from each other. The Void Hunters have millennia of knowledge about quantum space. The Meridians have technological expertise we can barely imagine. And we have a new way of seeing it all. The quantum fields around them pulsed in agreement, creating patterns that rippled across space, a new language of light and energy that promised to bridge the gap between species and technologies, between the rigid and the fluid, between the known and the possible. Humanity's first steps into quantum space hadn't just changed Earth, they had awakened the universe to new possibilities. And Atlas, that remarkable ship built in the Nevada desert, had become more than a defender of Earth. It had become a symbol of what was possible when you let go of control and embraced the unpredictable, evolving nature of reality itself.